The next speaker will be the Director of EIT Raw Materials Innovation Hub East, Krzysztof Kubacki, and he will introduce EIT Raw Materials and ERMA.
Thank you, Michał. I hope my presentation doesn't work because it's a lot easier not to be worried about the slides. We'll see. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to speak about EIT Raw Materials briefly, and also what is European Raw Materials Alliance. But apart from talking about our organization, I would also like to say a few words about the project, because you know, the Brine RIS project is one of the RIS projects, as we call them, the Regional Innovation Scheme projects, funded by EIT Raw Materials, which is the organization that I represent. And it's a it's a scheme that the European Commission has come up with, and the EIT is also supporting, that aims at increasing the innovation capacity of the so-called risk countries. What are the risk countries? The European Commission measures the innovation level of its member states, and also some other countries which are associated with the European Union. And based on that measurement or assessment, these countries are divided into 4 different groups. And there are the top 2 groups where the countries are above the average on the innovation level, and then there are the so-called moderate and modest innovators who are below the average. And actually most of the countries in our region are in that risk group. And therefore the European Commission, and if you look at the different funding schemes within the European Commission or the European Union, you can clearly see that there is a difference between the level of participation, the level of funding, level of activity that goes to Western and Northern Europe, and versus the new member states, versus the old Eastern Bloc. And therefore the Regional Innovation Scheme was introduced. And the Regional Innovation Scheme is really about increasing that innovation capacity of the countries, of the institutions in those countries. That's why we have that. For us, the Regional Innovation Scheme is also about, you know, what can we do not only to increase the level of innovation capacity, but also what can we do to continue with the ideas that are being developed here. And with the Brine RIS project being one of them, I would really encourage you to think about, okay, how can we utilize what we are working on here, and how can we take advantage of and take it further, either with EIT Raw Materials or with other funding schemes, or you know, within the national programs, because the ultimate goal is to not only to increase the innovation capacity of the countries and the institutions in those countries, the risk countries, but also about the continuation of these results. EIT Raw Materials is a very organization that is driven to commercialize the results of the projects that we support, and also to have clear plans for continuation for such projects like Brine. So I would really encourage you to, you know, within the course of the work on this specific project, to think about, you know, what can we do with this? How can we utilize the results that we will develop? And can we take it to the next step? Because ultimately the brines are one potential source of lithium for our European economy, and we will need a lot of lithium in the future. There are different forecasts, different projections. According to some, we will need as much as, you know, close to 600,000 tons of lithium carbonate equivalent by 2030. That's a lot, considering that there is almost none being produced today. There is a little bit in Portugal, and that's pretty much it. But there is quite a few lithium projects, but like any mining or mineral projects, they have all kinds of challenges to be developed. And so I think the brines are a potential important source of lithium for the future. And I would really encourage you to think in those terms. Can we translate the results of this project into something bigger? Because it's not just about, you know, coming and meeting and discussing the ideas, but it's also about how can we continue further. So that's a bit of a, you know, inspiration for today and for your work on the project. And let me just briefly introduce EIT Raw Materials. It's not working. It's perfect. That's exactly what I need. If you can help me, then I can actually show a few slides about EIT Raw Materials. Okay, there we go. So EIT Raw Materials has been established in December of 2014. We are a community of partners. We are a partnership that is owned by over 300 institutions today, coming from pretty much all the European countries. And the original start was with the EIT, European Institute of Innovation and Technology, organizing a tender or a call for establishing this knowledge and innovation community on raw materials. And these partners that you guys represent, or some of you represent, coming together and applying for the funding that is available for from the European Commission through EIT for the raw materials sector. So we have been active since pretty much January of 2015, so over 7 years now. And we have received the first funding period for 7 years from EIT. We have also received now the confirmation from EIT that they will continue to fund us for another 7 years. So it's a well-established organization that is well equipped with the funding for the raw materials sector. What kind of funding? I will briefly explain that in the next few minutes. We are also since 2020 in charge of managing the European Raw Materials Alliance. I will also talk a little bit about the European Raw Materials Alliance, what that is and what are the goals of European Raw Materials Alliance. So EIT Raw Materials, like I said, is a knowledge and innovation community established by the partners, coming from the three sides of the knowledge triangle. So universities, like our host university here in Wrocław, also research institutes. Maria, where are you? Maria is representing one of them. There we go. And also industry. And so all these three sides of the knowledge triangle are the partners that form this partnership of EIT Raw Materials. Our goal, in general, is to turn the raw materials sector into strength for Europe. The raw materials sector has been a very strong one decades ago. Is not so much anymore. We still have a lot of know-how in Europe that we can export to other countries or continents. But if you look at where the raw materials are coming from, the metallic and mineral raw materials around the world, then Europe is obviously not the strongest player anymore. And we have three distinct objectives that we want to, strengthen the raw materials sector through. Security of raw materials supply, designing solutions for product services and processes, and closing material loops, because we need to turn from linear to circular in order to be able to reach the goals of the green transition or the Green Deal. We are a pan-European organization. Our main office is in Berlin, that's where our headquarters are. Then we have 6, what we call them, innovation hubs, and one of them is in Kraków in Poland. That's where I am based and that's what I represent. And then we have also these regional centers which help us basically organize ourselves and be closer to the partners, work with the partners, work with the stakeholders in all the European countries. And we cover the raw materials sector along the full value chain of the mineral and metallic raw materials. So we start with exploration, resource assessment, go through mining, mineral processing, all the different processes, hydro, pyrometallurgical to develop pure metals, but then also look at the downstream of the cycle, recycling, substitution of critical and toxic raw materials, and also the circular economy. So if you are in the raw materials sector, regardless of which part of the value chain you are representing or you are working on, it is all relevant for us. And now, what do we do actually? What does EIT Raw Materials do? So first of all, we organize different matchmaking and networking events. We allow the partners to meet each other, work together in different formats, whether it's in large conferences like our annual RM Summit, the expert fora, or some more regional events. We spent a lot of our budget, which is about 80 to 100 million euro per year. We spend a lot of that budget on innovation projects, on upscaling, as we call them, projects. We organize calls for projects. We have 2 calls per year, and then we spend about 60% of that budget on these upscaling projects. We also, and in that slide, in the acceleration field, you can see the startup booster in the RM accelerator. We also support new businesses, startups, SMEs, entrepreneurs, idea holders. We have our business creation and support programs where we can provide direct funding to these entities, but we can also teach them or coach them how to develop and run their business. And we also have the whole field of education. We support master programs, we support PhD programs, lifelong learning for professionals, excuse me, and also the wider society learning, so teaching the wider public about the importance of the raw materials sector. And at the bottom you can see the regional innovation scheme, which I already explained what that is, and this is a horizontal activity that goes across the matchmaking, networking, acceleration and education. So again, regional innovation scheme can be undertaken in different fields, like in this one, in the brine risk project. And last but not least, we also, since September of 2020, on behalf of the European Commission, manage the European Raw Materials Alliance. Excuse me. The European Raw Materials Alliance was called to existence by the European Commission in September of 2020. It was part of the 10-point action plan on critical raw materials, and it was basically the initiative of the European Commission to establish a organization that would allow for more support for the raw materials sector by unlocking the bottlenecks in the sector. And this is what we do in the different clusters, where over 600 partners of the European Raw Materials Alliance meet and plan on how to make life easier, basically, for the raw materials sector in Europe. There is some specific work that has been developed by these clusters. You can get familiar with it if you go into the European Raw Materials Alliance website. And we also have the platform for investments, where we select investments in the raw materials sector, and then we support these investments for them to be developed and to provide more secure supply of raw materials, strategic and critical raw materials for the European economy. As you might have heard, a couple of weeks ago, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, was also announcing that there will be the Critical Raw Materials Act, which is yet another confirmation that the raw materials sector today is very important for the European economy, very important for the European Commission. I think there is a very high level of understanding of that. And if you want to connect the EIT Raw Materials and European Raw Materials Alliance on the basis of the brine risk project, I think, again, think in those terms. Can the brines become an important source of supply of lithium for the European economy in the future? I think it is potentially possible. The question is, how and when and where it's going to come from. And I will leave you with that thought when again, meeting here, discussing that and working on this specific project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Krzysztof.